The man sitting across from the mahogany desk didn't look like a millionaire, let alone the head of a global logistics empire that moved billions of dollars in freight every single year. He wore a simple gray sweater and spent the first 10 minutes of our meeting meticulously cleaning a small smudge off his glasses with a microfiber cloth he kept in his pocket. Most people would see this as a nervous tic or a strange obsession with cleanliness, but as he began to speak, I realized I was witnessing the very foundation of a multi-billion-dollar fortune. He told me that his entire life changed, not when he landed his first big contract, but when he decided that he would never leave a room without making sure it looked exactly as it did when he entered. This single, tiny commitment to order was the pebble that started an avalanche of discipline, eventually leading him to manage thousands of employees with the same precision he used on those glasses. Success for him wasn't a grand leap across a canyon. It was a series of perfectly placed stepping stones that anyone could follow if they just knew where to look. The concept of the compound effect is often discussed in financial terms, but its true power lies in the invisible architecture of our daily routines. We tend to celebrate the massive breakthroughs, the sudden promotion, the viral hit, or the dramatic weight loss, while completely ignoring the hundreds of hours of mundane repetition that made those moments possible. Neuroscience tells us that our brains are essentially efficiency machines, constantly looking for ways to turn conscious actions into automatic patterns to save energy. When we intentionally implement a small habit, like drinking a glass of water before coffee or writing down one single goal for the day, we're essentially programming the biological software that runs our lives. Over time, these tiny lines of code accumulate, creating a robust operating system that can handle immense pressure and complexity without crashing. This is why the most successful people in the world often seem boring in their consistency. They have mastered the art of the unremarkable. Most of us fail not because we lack ambition, but because we try to change too much at once, triggering a psychological defense mechanism known as the lizard brain. When you decide to overhaul your entire life on a Monday morning, your brain perceives this massive shift as a threat to your survival and begins to generate resistance in the form of procrastination and self-doubt. By choosing a habit so small it feels almost insulting, like doing just one push-up or reading a single page of a book, you bypass this alarm system entirely. You aren't just doing a push-up, you are proving to yourself that you are the type of person who keeps their promises. This shift in identity is far more valuable than the physical exercise itself because it builds the psychological capital necessary to tackle larger challenges later on. The goal is to make the habit so easy that it is harder to skip it than it is to just get it over with.
In the world of high-stakes performance, there is a term known as the aggregation of marginal gains, which was famously used to transform a failing national cycling team into world champions. Instead of looking for one big thing to improve, the coaches looked for 1% improvements in every conceivable area, from the pillows the athletes slept on to the type of massage gel they used. On their own, none of these changes moved the needle, but when they were stacked on top of each other, the results were transformative. This same principle applies to your personal trajectory. If you can get just 1% better at your craft every day, you will be 37 times better by the end of a single year. The math of discipline is undeniable, yet most people abandon the process because the results are invisible in the short term. They expect a linear progression, but growth is actually exponential, with the biggest rewards hidden behind a long plateau of latent potential.
The environment you inhabit acts as a silent coach, either nudging you toward your goals or pulling you back into old patterns of behavior. Research into behavioral triggers suggests that we are much more likely to follow through on a habit if the physical cues are obvious and the friction is low. If you want to start a habit of morning reflection, placing your notebook on your pillow the night before creates a visual trigger that is impossible to ignore when you go to bed and easy to reach when you wake up. Conversely, if you want to break a bad habit, you must increase the friction until the effort required outweighs the immediate dopamine hit. This is why the man with the glasses was so successful. He didn't rely on willpower, which is a finite resource that drains throughout the day. Instead, he engineered his surroundings to reflect the order he wanted to see in his mind, making excellence the path of least resistance.
True discipline is not about being a harsh taskmaster to yourself. It is about building a relationship of trust with your future self. Every time you follow through on a small habit, you are casting a vote for the person you wish to become, and eventually, the weight of those votes becomes an undeniable reality. This process is often painful because it requires us to sacrifice the immediate comfort of the present for a theoretical gain in the future. However, the legendary performers in every field understand that the pain of discipline is far lighter than the weight of regret. They find a strange kind of freedom within their boundaries, knowing that their routines protect them from the chaos of indecision. When your day is anchored by small, non-negotiable wins, you develop a sense of momentum that carries you through the inevitable setbacks and failures that life throws your way.
There is a psychological phenomenon called the Zeigarnik effect, which states that our brains are hardwired to remember uncompleted tasks more than finished ones, leading to a constant state of low-level anxiety. By implementing a habit of closing out small loops, like answering an email immediately or putting away laundry as soon as it dries, you free up massive amounts of mental bandwidth. This reclaimed energy can then be redirected toward high-level creative thinking and strategic planning. The millionaire I spoke with understood this instinctively. By maintaining perfect order in his immediate environment, he ensured that his mind was never cluttered with the noise of unfinished business. This clarity allowed him to see opportunities that his competitors missed because they were too busy putting out small fires that could have been prevented with a bit of daily maintenance. We often view success as a destination, a fixed point on a map that we will eventually reach if we work hard enough. In reality, success is a moving target that is defined by the quality of the journey and the systems we put in place to navigate it. If you only focus on the goal, you will feel a sense of failure every day that you haven't reached it, which eventually leads to burnout and surrender. But if you fall in love with the system, the daily ritual of the small habit, you get to feel a sense of accomplishment every single time you show up. This shift from outcome-based thinking to process-based thinking is the secret weapon of the elite. They aren't chasing a trophy, they are refining a craft. When the process becomes the reward, the external results become an inevitable byproduct of a life well lived. Social circles play a massive role in the adoption and maintenance of habits, often acting as a powerful and visible force that shapes our behavior. We are tribal creatures by nature, and we have a deep-seated need to fit in with the people around us, which means we often adopt the habits of our peer group without even realizing it. If your friends spend their time complaining and looking for shortcuts, you will find it nearly impossible to maintain a high level of discipline. However, if you surround yourself with people who value growth and consistency, their normal becomes your new baseline. This is why high-level performers often seek out masterminds and exclusive communities. They aren't just looking for information, they are looking for a culture that reinforces their desired identity. Your environment isn't just the room you sit in, it's the voices you allow into your head. The most dangerous myth about success is that it requires a special kind of talent or a lucky break that only a few people receive. While luck certainly plays a role, it is usually just the moment where preparation meets opportunity, and preparation is nothing more than the sum of your habits. The man who cleaned his glasses didn't get lucky when he built his empire. He was simply the most prepared person in the room because he had been practicing excellence in the small things for 30 years.
He understood that how you do anything is how you do everything. If you are sloppy with your morning routine, you will likely be sloppy with your business strategy. If you are disciplined with your health, that discipline will naturally bleed into your finances and your relationships. The small habits are not a distraction from the big work. They are the work.